Okay, so we've talked a lot so far about employee considerations, but what about employer considerations? Why do some employers offer unclean, unsafe, or unpleasant working conditions when it costs them more money in terms of wages to do so? Right? So the puzzle, right? Why be unclean? All right, and we'll use unclean as a catch-all term, right? So why be unclean when it means more money spent on wages, right? So why would firms or companies bother? Why would they be unclean when it means they have to spend more money? Okay, the main reason for this is because it costs money to clean a working environment. So actually, I just got hit in the head with a fly, all right? And you have to wonder why Ferris would allow such an egregious thing to happen, right? It scared the hell out of me. Okay, so the main reason for this is because it's costly to clean a work environment to make it safer or to make it more pleasant. In the case of making a working environment safer, you have to buy safety equipment. Right, you got to train people to use the safety equipment, right? The employer has to make sure that the employee doesn't steal the safety equipment and resell it somewhere, right? All these costs, right, while they may not seem like much, uh, add up. And we can easily imagine scenarios where it's more cost efficient to not make a job safer than it already is. Okay? So let's think of sort of a somewhat ridiculous example. Okay? So let's think about people working in construction jobs and the fact that they routinely face the possibility that they'll get splinters, right? An annoying and dangerous occupational hazard. Okay? To prevent this, to prevent splinters, the construction company could provide everybody with body armor and some sort of internal air conditioning, right? That completely surrounds the workers and completely prevents all splinters from ever reaching the skin, right? What do you think about that? Okay. Now, this would be incredibly costly, not only in terms of the physical equipment that would have to be purchased, but it would also likely make each worker less productive, as they would have less physical mobility owing to the suit's restriction on their range of motion, right? And so, alternatively, they can just pay the workers an additional 50 cents per hour, let's say, and let the workers deal with the perils of getting a splinter. Right? Now, in this admittedly simple example, paying the workers to deal with the annoying working condition of getting a splinter clearly makes sense, right? So, we don't surround construction workers with body armor to prevent them from getting splinters, right? Just like we don't surround me with, rubber gloves or whatever to prevent me from getting a paper cut, which I got a terrible one last week and it's finally all healed up, right? But in other cases, it makes more sense to make the working environment more safe than it does to pay the workers more money. So employers will routinely provide engineers and mechanics working on wind farms with safety equipment designed to prevent them from falling to their death from the top of wind turbines, right? So imagine how much it would take to get you to go out up on the top of a giant wind turbine and do some mechanical work if I didn't give you any safety equipment whatsoever, right? In order to induce you to do that, I'd probably have to pay you a lot of money, right? A ton of money. I'd probably have to promise to pay your kids and your family and everything money for the rest of their lives if you fell to your death, right? That'd be incredibly expensive. Or I can spend a couple $100 on some safety equipment. Okay, so the cost of this safety equipment, right, and prevent theft costs money, right? The cost of the safety equipment versus the degree or the the amount of the compensating wage differential, all right, determines whether or not the employer will simply pay the worker more or if they'll make improvements to the working condition. Okay? And further, different employers will face different costs for improving working conditions. So think of office space in major cities, right? Because office space in major cities is so expensive, we should expect offices there to be slightly smaller, all else being equal, than offices in rural parts of the country. Other employers may face different costs due to other factors. So, for example, when I used to work for the Joint Economic Committee in the House of Representatives, and then also for the Senate Budget Committee this past summer, right? My office was very nice, right? We were visited by basically zero constituents during the entire time I was there, and yet my office had extremely plush carpets. I had a great office chair, a very nice, beautiful wood desk, some great office furniture, right? My office was in, fancy, U.S. House and Senate office buildings. I actually was always on the top floor, which was pretty cool. I had a gorgeous view of the Capitol building. It was just amazing, right? So why was my office so fancy, right? Well, in part, it was because it was paid for by taxpayer dollars, and it's very easy to afford nice things when 318 million people are sharing the bill, right? And so 318 million people sharing the bill means, Dave gets to have a nice office in Washington, D.C. Okay, so the reason why we see unpleasant working environments is typically because it's cheaper to the business to just pay the workers to deal with the problems than it is to actually fix the problems, right? So let's think about, we could think about some other examples. So what about like sweatshop workers in the third world where their factory burns down and workers are unfortunately killed, right? What can we say about the world using what we've just learned today, right? Well, it must have been the case that it was cheaper to pay the employees more to work at that firm than it was to make it more or less prone to fall over in a fire. Now, again, go back to our three assumptions, right? If we go back to our three assumptions, we have to assume, we are assuming all three of these. We're assuming, and especially, that workers have information and that they're mobile, right? If they don't have the information and they're not mobile, then maybe something else was going on. But I submit to you that workers, even in the third world, have information and more mobility than you give them credit for. So who knows what it would apply, what it would mean. And unfortunately, we're going to find out later on in this semester when we read Ben Powell's book. All right, it's called Out of Poverty. So if you haven't bought that book from the bookstore yet or from Amazon, make sure you order it soon because we are going to be reading it in this class in a couple of weeks. Okay.